Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today I want to talk about my new character project, and it is Arc Ignite. And I know you guys gonna say now, hey, you played Arc Ignite many times already, and yeah, of course, it's like a goddamn awesome build and like archetype, being like Arc as like one of my favorite skills, and Ignite obviously my favorite type of dealing damage. And I did play Arc Ignite in several different versions as a normal like Arc Ignite. I think it started out with like the Stormfire ring, where that lets you basically let your lightning damage ignite. Then later on with the Eternity Shroud version, and then going over to mana stacking, which has been my league starter for I think like 2 leagues ago in last league or something. And I really always enjoyed it. But there is one big difference here. All my Arc Ignite characters has been kind of a low budget thing. Either it was a league starter and I played it up to like 15 to 20 divines, or I think the Eternity Shroud version was like my second build of the league, talking about 50 divines investment. I basically never really played Arc Ignite on a high-end level setup, talking about 300-400 divines or even more, and this is what this project is about. And even though I had my concerns talking about the mana stacking version and all these kind of things, I came across an old video of mine, so quick storytelling here. Back in the days in 3.16, that was Beyond League, or whatever the league was called, like the Beyond Rework Scourge League, yeah. This is when I played a different version of Ignite, and this was a Nebulis version, okay? Let me pause this here. As you see, we have Nebulis scaling with Incandescent Heart, Mage Blood, and Lightning to Cold into Fire into Chaos conversion, basically, right? And this was actually a version that was quite tanky and also had the power to do things right. And obviously, now we have 324. This was 316, so we have a lot more tools to put stuff together. And obviously, I spent my time putting together a POB, and this is the current version. This is a Nebulis, Aegis Aurora, max res stacking, kind of like Arc Ignite build. This is in the very early stages. We're level 73. I just finished the campaign. This character hasn't died yet, and I hope this will stay like that. But what is the thing about that, right? I'm gonna quickly run a map showcase before people hate me for not doing any map, but I'm just gonna pop in like any low tier map. I don't really care about that because I haven't done any laps yet. The way you scale Nebulis is you need max resistance, and I don't really have max resistance. I have like 84 cold res and like 76 lightning res, so I get like minor damage out of my Nebulis so far, but obviously there will be ways of scaling all of that. So basically, I'm just going to run one map so you see what this kind of looks like. And then we talk about the specifics, what are the plans for the build, and how I think everything hopefully will turn out. Basically, it is an Arc character, and it deals Ignite damage. Through the Elementalist, Shaper of Flames, Lightning, or at least all damage can ignite and all damage will ignite, right? But the thing here is, this is just a different version of scaling. As I love my Ignite builds, and I have played pretty much every source of Ignite build already, even like now with the life stacking with the Burning Arrow, which I still think was, the coolest build of this league, what I've played so far. I really enjoyed it a lot, but as I always say, I could play the best build in the world at some point. With the amount of hours that I play, they get boring, and then at some point I'm just playing the next build and the next build and the next build. And sometimes, you know, like, even though, whoa, wait, don't kill me here. Even though a lot of builds turn out bad, because I'm leveling a lot of characters recently. I mean, people on the stream hate me already for rerolling like every second day, but I'm always looking for the special builds. I'm always looking for the builds that have like really good scaling, builds that you can min-max. I'm never like happy with the builds that are just like, you know, put some life resistance gear together and there you go, that's your build, right? I'm always a big fan of things like conversion setups. For example, the EK Ignite. It's not only a very cool build to play very fast and can do like all content, but the way it works with all the multi-conversion things going on, this is the stuff that really gets me going on these builds. And this one is actually not different. This also goes for multiple conversion, and I did actually plan it as an EK Ignite to begin with, but the problem with EK Ignite, it just needs a lot more stuff to get going, and the Arc version was just like the, what would you say, the cheaper version of it, right? But we're gonna see if this is gonna end up being an EK Ignite build in the long run. Good, you see in the map showcase, this is basically the gameplay. You have your arc and your arc ignites. But what does this make so special? Basically, this is more or less like a similar version to the Eternity Shroud version that I've played a couple leagues ago, because we're going through multi-conversion with the Incandescent Heart. What this chest is doing is 20% of ally damage taken, 20% of elemental damage as extra chaos damage here on the maximum roll over here, right? But how does this work? So basically, conversion always goes in one direction. So if I quickly open up a notepad here, put this away, roll in. So we go from basically physical to lightning, lightning to cold, into fire, into chaos, right? And probably put these marks over here. So this is the conversion it goes, right? The problem is you can, like, physical has the most scaling possible. Not only do we have physical conversion, we also have physical as extra, cold damage, lightning damage, chaos damage, whatever. There's a lot of sources of physical as extra, and this makes physical skills always scale the best way. That's why EK Ignite is so freaking strong, because we have sources of conversion and we have sources of as extra, right? The problem with Arc is we're starting here on Lightning, and there is only very, very few sources that say something like lightning damage is extra cold or something, right? I think there's a craft like lightning damage is extra chaos or something, but you're definitely more limited on this, right? But the thing here is the same way as Eternity Shroud. Every time you're converting your damage, you're getting a portion of this extra chaos damage. That's why it's called elemental damage as extra chaos, not lightning as chaos or something like that. It says elemental. And what is elemental? Lightning, cold, and fire. These are our three elemental types. So what we do is we start off with a base lightning skill here with arc, for example, and we're going to get 20% of our arc damage as extra chaos. Then we're going into 96% lightning to cold conversion thanks to double Call of the Brotherhood, and now we have turned our 100% lightning damage into 96% cold damage, and boom, the Incandescent Heart triggers again and gives us now 20% of the remaining 96% cold damage as extra chaos damage. And then with a cold to fire support, we are turning this remaining 96% cold damage into 50% fire damage and cold as extra fire. And boom, the Incandescent Heart procs again and gives us another big portion of chaos damage. It's the same way as an Eternity Shroud works. And it is also the same way as the Gloomfang, for example, works on EK Ignite, where we go into physical to cold to fire and always proc this ally as extra chaos, giving us so much damage. So, quick TLDR, why not physical to lightning into cold? Because this is one extra step, right? But the thing is, like, if I would play this as EK Ignite, I'm already running quite a bunch of auras that I think is needed for this kind of build. We run Tempest Shield, we run Discipline, we run Purity of Eyes, Malevolence and Determination, as well as Vitality and Clarity, and we are pretty much mana-starved already in terms of reservation efficiency, right? If I would play this as an EK build with a physical spell, I need to go from physical into another source, for example, Lightning, and that also means that I can use a Herald of Purity, Herald of Ash. I need Hatred. These are 3 more hours that I need to, like, squeeze in somehow. And since this is not an Eldritch Battery build, it is very hard to get all the mana things going. And this one was just like the easier way to set up. Not saying I'm not gonna try out EK in the long run once I min-max this build and see where I can squeeze out enough auras and how can I sustain my mana cost and so on and so forth, right? But let's not talk about EK too much, let's talk about Arc. So, we are using Arc, and we, as I said, turn the conversion into cold damage and then cold to fire, and we're proccing the Incandescent Heart. So, some people might think now, why do you not play this now as an Eternity Shroud build, since Eternity Shroud gives you up to, like, I think 55% allies extra chaos, and this only 20%. Well, the reason is the defensive aspect. And the problem with EK Ignite, or I keep saying it, dude. The problem with Eternity Shroud and those kind of things is they are rather squishy. They can definitely take a hit, but they're not like any main tanks by any means, right? So, when playing Incandescent Heart, you're most likely playing this as CI. And what CI means is that you're immune to chaos damage. So, what does the Incandescent Heart say again? 25% of elemental damage from hits taken as chaos damage. Since we're CI, we annul that damage. It doesn't exist. So the line 25% ally damage taken as chaos damage means basically 25% less elemental damage taken. Because the extra, like the conversion into chaos doesn't affect us, right? The same way with the Aegis Aurora with sources of, like here, the corruption physical damage taken as chaos damage. It basically means 8% less physical damage taken, right? Because of CI. And there is other masteries here with 10% physical damage taken as chaos damage. So everything that we can take as chaos damage means we just get less damage from that source. Make it, or should be able to make it, fairly tanky. Good. What about Nebulis? So Nebulis is an item that didn't see much love. It was like one of the meta item with all the aura stackers back in the days, but nowadays, or at least it was hard to get to 90% maximum resistance. But now we have the new flasks, right? The revamped flasks basically giving you maximum resistance. If I have here one. So the Sapphire Flask gives you 5 to maximum cold resistance, and then scaling with increased effect with something like a Mage, but you get like, I don't know, like 9 or 10% maximum cold resistance out of that, with the Aegis giving you another 5%, so it is somewhat easier to get to 90% maximum resistance. And what do we do with that is playing with Melding the Flesh, which is basically a jewel that says, that gives you minus maximum resistance, but also minus all resistance. So basically, if you play a Melding build, you basically need twice as much resistance as any other build, but it says elemental resistance are capped by your highest maximum elemental resistance. So the goal is, and this is the reason why we kind of have to play with Mage Blood, to basically get our resistance, because now you not only need like your base resistance after the campaign, basically, with a minus 60 resistance, right? It needs twice as much, right? So Mage Blood with a resistance flask is kind of like mandatory for these kind of builds. But the thing is, we're gonna try to get 90% cold resistance, and thanks to the Melding the Flesh, we're also gonna have 90 fire and 90 lightning resistance, while being immune to chaos damage thanks to the CI, and then trying to get a lot of source of physical damage taken as elemental or as chaos damage, in the best case chaos damage, to have like a very, very tanky build. You know, builds with 90% max resistance stuff are relatively tanky. I think it's still not the best way of being the tankiest character, but compared to the Arc Ignite Mana Stacker, compared to EK Ignite, compared to all these kind of builds, this should be a very, very tanky approach. So back to Nebulis, once we have the 90% max res, we're basically getting, what the Nebulis says here is, you get increased lightning damage above 75%. So if we are at 90% max resistance and we subtract that with the 75 base resistance, we are getting 15 over max res times 20 is about 300% increased cold damage and 300% increased lightning damage, giving us a whopping 600% increased damage if we get the Melding of Flesh setup going with the cold and lightning damage. And don't forget, we're getting the 300% increased lightning damage on our arc, and then basically after the conversion, after the 96% conversion into cold, we're also getting a 300% cold damage towards our cold portion of arc, which then basically scales the incandescent heart with all the Ellie as extra. That's why I'm also running an Eteris Probis, for example, because it also has Ellie as extra chaos, right? So everything here is basically just the plan, because as I said, the character is pretty fresh. We're currently leveling up, gearing up, starting to get our core pieces together. I'm still running some leveling stuff, you know, some aberrant suits, whatever. So basically we finished the campaign yesterday, and now the next upcoming days we're going to start crafting gear, start assembling this build, and hopefully this is going to take on like T17 and Uber bosses, because this is kind of like my plan, because the other Arc Ignite builds that I played, they had no problems ever dealing with T16 maps, right? But I'm not really interested in spending like 300-400 divines into a T16 mapper, because I can do this with like 10 divines as well, right? I want to see with this project if I'm able with this kind of version in a high-end setup, talking about 400-500 divines or something, to make an Arc Ignite build that is capable of doing all content. This is the plan. We're going to see how this is going to work out. And if you want to follow the route, Twitch TV/MBExtreme, or subscribe to the YouTube channel with updates on the build like every other day. And hopefully it's going to work out. In the worst case scenario, it's going to be complete dog shit. The numbers on PUB that I've made are looking decent. Decent enough. I think like 15 mil Ignite TPS with the regular arc, and up to like 30 mil Ignite TPS with a Val arc. And this should be enough damage, because this is basically the kind of the same numbers that I have on my older EK Ignite versions, and they had like no problem breezing through the game, and hopefully this is gonna hold up. Hopefully this is gonna be very tanky, not gonna be like insane tank, but a lot more tanky than your average build, while still being able to have a comfy Arc Ignite setup with enough damage to hold on against the hardest content in the game. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you on the next video.